How's it going, guys? So we finished up the morning chores and we just went and picked up this big telehandler, running it from our neighbor. What we're gonna do this morning is add a couple rings to two of these big bins. Just don't have quite the capacity we were hoping. We wanted to time it out that the bins would be pretty much empty. They have to be below this bottom ring so we can take these bolts all out and then add the rings there. So this corn is just about empty and the supplement is right at that line there. I did not time it out properly to do the bean bin on the end, so we're gonna have to come back a different day to do that one. What we'd like to do is be able to get 10-ton deliveries of our supplement mix. That's what goes in the first bin. And the bin's rated for 14 tons, so I thought that should be about right. But the problem is the stuff's a little bit too fluffy, so we can get 10 tons in if it's completely empty. But that doesn't work out with ordering feed. You need to have some leeway there so you can get a delivery on a Friday if there's still a couple tons left and fit it on top. Adding 2 rings should give us plenty of capacity that we can order 10 tons at a time. We get a volume discount at 10 tons, $5 a ton, so the difference between ordering 7 tons at a time and 10 is about $5 a day in savings, which adds up. It's gonna be worth taking this extra time to extend these a little bit. The guy we bought the bins from is gonna be here pretty soon. He's gonna help us with this. Should have the rings with him, and we got a telehandler. We're gonna attach the 2 rings on the ground and then put it back up.
Bolts have a new washer going again. Yeah.
We're gonna get the second bin down a while. Just have to go through, drill holes and attach them. How's it going, guys? So it's actually a few days later now, and it's about 5 in the morning currently. Temperature's down in the teens this morning, and we have our custom manure hauler here moving some manure for us. They're currently hauling out of the main barn there, taking 15 load or so out, just to make sure we have enough space in that pit till spring. After they're done with that, we're gonna drop a lagoon pump in at the neighbor's farm where we were keeping our heifers before. We don't have heifers there anymore, but we're gonna get that pit emptied out one more time. Wanted to show you what we're doing in the feed room. We had been leaving that garage door just open all the time so it's not going up and down so much. But when it's cold like this, now we have it going closed. The feeders can open and close that. And then this water line, we have this heat tape wrapped around it just to make sure we don't freeze this hydrant up and the water line there in this valve. The door actually makes a big difference. This room is insulated. The door's going up and down all the time, so you're definitely not gonna keep all the cold out, but I would say it's in the upper 20s in this room. It's barely cold enough to even freeze that line. I'm gonna go start up our 7130 and we'll hook it up to the lagoon pump they brought along and get that ready for them so they can use it in a few minutes. Double checking, make sure I unhooked everything last night, which I did. Gonna top off the fuel first. They have the lagoon pump sitting right there. They got started at about 4 this morning. I opened up the door and curtains a little bit just to get some fresh air in this barn. Just need to be careful with gas a little bit with the pit being under the barn. Fresh air is more important than keeping it warm in here in this situation. Just wanted to make sure the cows were all feeling good. Doesn't look like they're too bothered. They're working at the milking. These cows are all milked already. They're getting group 3 over now. We haven't been hauling out of this pit in the winter for the last couple years. Just felt like we had the right conditions. Let's get a little bit out and make sure we're not pushing too full in the spring. You never know what the conditions are going to be in the end of April. If it's muddy, we might not be able to haul till May. We'll see. Getting some out now really takes the pressure off. Figure let's just take advantage. It's about 6:30 now. They just loaded up the last tank that they need for the other farm. We were just putting a light amount over at the one rented farm, maybe about a foot out of the pit or a little less, but that's a big difference. They're ready for me to bring that lagoon pump to the other farm now, close this barn up. Pump is all hooked up properly, ready to back in there. For those of you who've been watching this channel for 5+ years, I guess it's been over 6 years now. When I first started making videos, we had about 80 heifers at this farm. We were renting these buildings. We were feeding them all at that bunk feeder out of the silos, split into 2 groups. The older pregnant heifers were in that barn over there, fed on that side of the bunk, and then we had the breeding age heifers over here. They would wrap around, stay in this lower barn. We were doing that for about 5 years. Worked okay. It wasn't the ideal setup for heifers. Eventually we built the barn at home there, the heifer barn. We were able to bring the breeding age heifers there, and then we still had 30 or 40 head here for a couple years, just until this summer. Now we have everybody at home. We have a little less heifers now, running a little bit more in our dry cow barn, and the robot feeder is able to keep up with feeding them all, no problem. I used to scrape and bed this barn all the time, scrape that. There's a hole right here to scrape liquid into, and also one right here. It's a big pipe underground that went down to the lagoon pit there. An old earth lagoon pit. This is kind of going out of style, this type of pit, because it's not sealed up as well as a nice concrete pit. And anyway, so the owner of this property is planning to tear this building down, tear the bunk feeder down, and get this all leveled out, fill the lagoon pit in. Not going to be using that anymore. So this is all going to be no more. Just taking one last look at it here. I think next week they're going to start tearing stuff apart. This isn't our property, so it's not really my project at all, but it's going to be interesting to see. Right here on the end of this bunk feeder, we put a gate to separate them. This lower barn down here is where the younger heifer shelter is. They just wrap around this end right here to get up to the bunk feeder. This barn I don't like quite as much, just the way it's set up. It's harder to clean out and bed up. We make it work, but it's not the most efficient. We just kind of have to deal with it here during the winter. Waiting on this rig to show up. I'm gonna let him back this pump into the pit. There's gonna be some ice on top, but it was actually warm here the last few days. Turned cold now last night, so shouldn't be bad. I gotta stay out of the wind, it's just too cold out there. His valves were sticking a little bit, he was having trouble getting the hydraulics to work, but I think he might have broke it loose now. A couple hours have passed. He was able to get this pit emptied out really well. Pretty much all the liquids out of it. They're gonna have to go in there and scoop that solid manure out. There's definitely some solids in the bottom there. Got the manure pump off of this tractor, and I'm gonna hook this back up to the box spreader. The bed pack in the milking barn for the pre-fresh cows and special needs cleaned out. We don't want to spread any dry manure on the fields right now. It's all spring forage ground. We had tried experimenting a little bit with piling this stuff, letting it compost a bit, and then rebedding stalls with it. Try to put some of it down in the commodity barn in a couple bays. I'm hoping I can get this spreader inside that barn. I'm not sure, it might be a little too wide. We're gonna try it though. This was our small pile of recycled stuff that we were using from. See, we got a little bit of hydrated lime mixed with it. And we've been bedding the dry cow barn with this stuff for a few weeks. It's worked well in there. Cows are staying dry, seems comfortable. We still have not tried it in the milking barn. We like this bed pack. It's very comfortable for the special needs cows and the cows about to calve. but it takes a ton of bedding. And we rebed it pretty aggressively just to keep it dry enough. And so you end up having some life left in this bedding. Feels like a waste to throw it in the fields. It's got a lot of wood in it. It's not the best fertilizer. Getting it to compost, rebedding it, and then putting it in the field seems like a better bet. But we always bed stalls with kiln dried sawdust. We don't want to have bacteria, you know, in the bedding that can cause mastitis. Even though you bed with clean sawdust, you're gonna have bacteria that gets into it pretty quick. Anytime we test the bedding in our stalls, there's always bacteria growth in it. The question is, if we're bedding with this recycled stuff, it has more moisture, is the bacteria load gonna be way worse, or is it gonna be fairly similar? Should have a few inches to spare on each side according to my stepping off. This stuff's already starting to compost. See it steaming pretty good, but now we're running it through the spreader, aerating it all, so it should help get those bugs working a lot more now. The idea is when it's composting, it gets up to a certain temperature, it kills off certain bacteria that are bad. I really don't know if we're gonna get up to that temperature. This stuff's pretty dry. It really doesn't have that manure smell to it already. We had trouble with the shavings guys. When they'd bring a full semi, they'd push pretty hard against the back wall, and then they'd push shavings out the back. Yeah, it's actually worse than I thought. Saw it moving a little bit. That should work. Now we can push that wall back in a little bit. We put 6 spreaders in the one bay in the commodity barn. We'll put the rest in this bunker silo. We're still in the experimental phase with the rebedding, so we don't want to get too serious yet. I think there could be something to it. We could easily fit the whole pen in probably 2 bays, if not easily 3. We have the indoor space for it. Always try to keep it moving quickly with this job because cows have to stand and wait. So we're going to throw a couple bales of the bean stubble in as a padding, put a little sawdust on top of it. This was 6 spreader loads, so it was over a third of the pen. We could have piled it up a little higher too, probably. Hey guys, so it's the next day. I didn't show it at all, but we were just cleaning out this lagoon, getting all the solids out of the bottom of it. The pump was dropped in that side. This side has a concrete lane down to the bottom, and it's actually a concrete bowl. Starts somewhere here. This whole bottom is poured concrete, and then they have clay around the sides. It's supposed to seal up pretty good. I don't think it really leaked, but it's not how you would build a pit anymore. I don't know what year this was built, but wanted to get it empty so they could break up all this concrete and fill it in properly. We had 2 skid loaders running. The neighbor was scooping everything out of the bottom here, and then I was loading our spreader and hauling it out of the way. Just a little bit of liquid. Gets pretty low in this area where the pump drops in, so that's gonna have to be pumped out or something yet. I guess the pipe comes out somewhere here, or maybe even down below this, that pipe that goes up underneath the barn there. It'll be nice not to have to worry about getting this lagoon emptied out anymore. It's one thing with an outdoor lagoon like this, it's just a big funnel that catches rainwater. Okay guys, that'll be it. Thanks a lot for watching. Might be a few less videos in the near future. My wife and I are expecting our 4th child any day here, so I have other priorities that are coming before the YouTube videos, so I think you can understand that. Definitely going to be filming stuff, getting into field work and spring work pretty soon. Guess we'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.